Okay, well, I can do it in the real elevator sum up. At 16 years old, I emancipated. I went out on my own, Pocatello, Idaho. I worked my fanny off and got a full ride track scholarship to the University of Southern California, which is, I got Gary in the background. Fight on, Trojans. And I got to spend 4 years in the lovely Los Angeles. I learned a lot of things. I got the benefit of a free education. And I brought that back to Idaho, and I went to law school up at the University of Idaho, which was also free because I was a resident here. And back then, there was never a question about free public education. It was just a given. Not the case today. So I got my law degree. I practiced up in North Idaho. I was the public defender for Nez Perce County for a couple of years. Decided that criminal law was probably not going to work for me. Criminal defense was not going to work for me. My moral compass was having some radar issues. And so I moved down to Boise in 1999. I've been here ever since. And I have been practicing in real estate and commercial litigation. I'm a trial lawyer by trade, which provides me an opportunity to learn how to speak in front of crowds, and more importantly, to debate. And I just cannot wait to be on the debate stage with Brad Little. If he does.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, Marcia.
First of all, thank you for being here. I feel in my heart that public education is democracy in action. So what in your campaign will reassure everyone that you will make it your top priority?
You are absolutely right, Marcia. Democracy is based on a public education system, because without educated constituents, you don't have civic discourse. I think you can see that right now in our country, where they have put education at the bottom of the barrel, and now we have people blindly voting in cult-like numbers, actually, because they don't know better. And in Idaho, that's been the goal. It is the goal. It's going to be the goal for this next budget year, where now we just don't have the money, so we have to cut the budget. But I'm going to be a reminder that our Idaho Constitution mandates free public education for every single kid in this state, no matter their zip code, no matter where they live, no matter anything, no matter their economic status. The first and foremost thing that we're going to do is undo the vouchers. Undo it. That was wildly unpopular. I don't care what the legislature says, but I will do whatever I can to make sure that goes away. I might be the first governor in the history of the state that uses executive orders like Trump. But I will, no matter what it is, I'm going to find a way to undo that, because that's the first step. First step is making sure that the money for public schools stays in public schools. Second thing I'm going to do is make sure that it's equitably split across the districts. So we've got districts in south central Idaho. I was born and raised in Pocatello. I had the benefit of a great public education back then, but anywhere east of Mountain Home, when you get into the rural school districts, they're cutting funding for their programming, their administration, mental health counseling, anything that is outside of the teaching to the test, they have cut for rural schools. And that is unacceptable, and they're placing the burden on property owners to try and levy around keeping their schools open, making sure that they're safe. And we need to reprioritize our budget to make sure that the public schools are a safe place, they're not crumbling. That was on the ballot with Reclaim Idaho, and sadly, people believed the governor when he said he would fix it without the Medicaid vote. We see how that worked out, and I'm going to call a lie a lie. So rebudgeting is a huge one. And then refocusing our efforts on making sure that more of a policy matter, that a college education is revered, not dismissed. And I think that the attacks on our public institutions of higher learning in this state are unprecedented and unacceptable, and it needs to be changed.
Thank you.
Okay, next question. David.
Yes, hi. I'm new to Idaho. Came here a couple of years ago from New England. And one of the things that really surprised me, blew my mind actually, is that food is taxed in this state as part of the sales tax. I've never heard of that in any state. I didn't know that could be done, and I wondered what you thought about that.
First, welcome to Idaho. It might be a little warmer here than New England this winter, so welcome. The question was, he was very shocked the fact that we tax groceries. Short story. What would be the plan to undo that? And yet we do tax groceries. I think we are one of the very few states in the country that does so, and it's because our present leadership, starting with Jim Risch in 2016, to be real, decided that he wanted to funnel the general funds away from education, and he decided that taxing food would be a good way to give tax breaks to the wealthy, but still find that revenue somewhere else. And what it became is obviously a tax on people that can't afford it. And the Idaho Democratic Party delegation with IDLCC, everybody, all of our elected officials have been trying and pushing to get rid of the grocery tax for years. With a Democratic governor in the state house, that is a possibility because there is actually enough support among rural Idaho delegates, among the GOP, in the farm communities in eastern Idaho especially, maybe not so much North Idaho, they're a little different up there. But yeah, the GOP, the leaders who have to go back into their communities and explain to their constituents why someone making $7.25 an hour is paying 6% on the groceries. Doesn't make any sense. Yeah, so no, that has been on the table. What you need is you need a Democratic governor to put it in the budget and say, we're just doing away with it. It's gone.
Questions?
I don't need a microphone.
Yeah.
I have a very loud voice myself. So obviously, like looking around, there's a lot of older people, and that's great. Let me clarify. That is beautiful and that is amazing, and I'm very happy that we have an audience here. I was just curious, as a younger person, how do you plan on getting the younger audience to pay attention to you? You know, gather that audience.
I have a plan for this. They are part of the 20%, by the way. They're part of the younger voting pool are a part of the 20% that I need to win. And in Idaho, the IDYD is a great resource. If you don't know of IDYD, go check them out. They are now chaptered all over the state. It's the Idaho Young Democrats, and we're working in partnership on my campaign. But above that, it is how people get their information really is definitive how you reach them. And TikTok, Reddit, all of the forums where normal people kind of just scroll past. You know, us older folk, we have Facebook. My daughter's generation is Instagram and TikTok. My son, Gen Alpha, is a TikTok all the way. How do you reach those people is you get into their medium. And so our campaign is actually going to have a full-time digital marketing intern whose sole job is going to be to get footage, do impromptu talks from me, show up at events like this, push it out, do individual graphics, do also the what's happening in the legislature, that's going to be big, and pushing that out on the social media, the TikTok, the medium that generation listens to, and hopefully spark that interest so they come and they look at the campaign. Seeing my face over and over again might really bore some people, but that's how you get to them. If they don't have something to see, then they don't know what's there. And so that's what, I'm just gonna blast my face across social media with a younger person. He's 21, he's amazing. His degree is in digital marketing, and that's all he's gonna do, full time, from January to election day.
Okay. Stephanie.
Hi, thanks for being here. So just to go back to what the previous question, so you're going to get rid of taxes on food. Awesome. How? Like, what will take its place? Will you tax the rich more? I mean, is there a plan?
There is a plan. I mean, I actually have economists working with me to come up with that plan. An economist who you may all know, Aaron Swisher, very smart, very wise in how to tax and how to replace tax. The fact of the matter is that they are taxing the lower and middle class and not taxing the billionaire class. The billionaire class in Idaho is small but mighty, and they have more tax breaks than than revenue generated from all the rest of Idahoans. It's actually incredibly insane, but we're not taxing them. And that is gonna change. There literally just needs to be a change in the leadership at the top of the ticket who has a budget that makes sense, because there are so many people in the middle who understand and appreciate that the current budget that we have is abhorrent. And that's because of the tax breaks they gave to the wealthy and not really taking into consideration the working class. There's always been a plan for the grocery tax. That's always been replaceable. They just won't do it because it means taxing the lobbyists that give them so much money.
Next question. Oh, come on. Chris.
Hi, thanks for being here. My question has to do with things that have been yelled at me when I've been out, say, campaigning for Camelot or things like that. They say, socialist. So there's this boogeyman, I think, that's been created by certain news channels, which is the socialists, and they keep that up. So how do you respond to people who, it sounds like an argument from the 50s, I know, but some people still throw this out there. I even have a cousin in Los Angeles who threw this out there on Facebook. So how do you respond to that?
Thank you for the question, Chris. It's actually a great question. There are several ways you can respond. The first way is just to respond in fact. I mean, we operate now in a system where people are basing their decisions on fallacy. Just there's no fact basis for a big chunk of what they scream across. Socialist is one of them. Do we have some socialized programs? Yeah, and then you remind them what they are. Well, your police force, your fire department, your ambulances, those services, the roads that you drive on. There are functions of government that are necessary, and that's not socialist, that's American. The other one is the notion that when did we get away from taking care of our neighbor? Like, when did that not become a popular thing? We have more in common than we don't. If you start talking to someone like that and you ask them, do they take care of their neighbor? The one that they like, not the other one. and if they say no, that the neighbor's on their own, then we're never gonna get that vote. That person lacks empathy, we're never gonna get that vote. I call them Trumpers, 3-time Trump voters. I'm not gonna get them. There's no amount of talking that I can do to convince them that my plan would be better than the plan that they are currently living under, because they are so brainwashed into thinking that every single problem that they have is based somewhere in history on a Democrat. Idaho, we haven't had a Democrat in power since 1996. So it's hard to say that any policy that has impacted any of the people in this generation has anything to do with a Democratic policy. It just doesn't. It's not based in fact. So if you start talking with them and you have a conversation and you ask about how do you feel about helping your neighbor, and they have no interest in helping their neighbor, you know to move on to the next house. But if that person says, well, of course I want to help my neighbor, there's your opportunity to build the bridge. And that's what I do. When I go across this state, I mean, I've lived in North Idaho, I've lived in Eastern Idaho, and I've lived here in the Treasure Valley. I know all the dynamics about this state. I love this state, every single part of it. They're very different, the areas of the state. How I talk to somebody in Eastern Idaho is vastly different than how I talk to somebody in North Idaho. But the commentary is the same. We're all on the same team. We're all Idahoans. We all love our neighbors. We all want to do what's right. And for the people that resonates with, they will listen. They will listen to the information that's outside of the box. How am I going to reach those people? Again, we're going on to their medium. I'm not going to hide from them. We actually have one of our TikTok plans is to take all of my hate mail and my hate comments. They're fun, by the way. They're really fun. I can't even mention some of them in public because Ellie was like, you can't say that in public, Terri. Like, oh, it would be so funny. But I get good stuff because, you know, I'm an independent, strong woman running for the top seat. And when the President of the United States tweets me, which he has twice, my response is, and I get a bunch of vitriol with it, is I screenshot them, and we're gonna have a TikTok explaining how ridiculous this is and why. But in a comedic kind of way, in a lighthearted, like, oh, you know, you want me to die or whatever. I mean, that's the extreme, but being called a socialist, for example, I have a canned response for that. That's funny. And so we're just gonna put that out there. If they wanna come at me, they gotta come with a lot more than just calling me a socialist, let's put it that way.
Okay, socialist, what's your response?
My response to being called a socialist? Well, absolutely 100% I'm a socialist when it comes to the government, because a government is for the people, we the people, and we the people put those people in there because we think and we trust them to take care of us. That's the whole point. Socialism, taking care of the people around you. A lot of people use their church organizations, their synagogue organizations to take care of their communities. We have a government that its sole purpose is to preserve and protect our society in a democratic republic as we know it. And yes, it's based on socialism. There is capitalism that goes with it, and that's why we can all afford these nice fancy things. So yes, it is a combination of both. You can't call me a socialist and not call yourself a socialist if you've ever dialed 911.
Yeah. Okay, anybody back here have something? Paula, you make me run and I'm not good.
Exercise is good for you.
Thank you. Motion to close.
I'm just wondering if you know, talking about your neighbors and protecting your neighbors, we now have ICE in Idaho, unfortunately. Do you have a plan for that too?
Yes, yes.
I figured you
I'm
probably
gonna tear
did.
that contract right up. Because ICE is not operating under the guise of Idaho law, so they don't need Idaho law enforcement to help them. I support every single organization. The Sheriff's Association's now come out. The Boise City Police have now come out and said that they're not operating under the legalities of state law, and therefore the state law enforcement or enforcement agencies do not need to be involved, and especially not the ISP. They'll be busy protecting me, and they won't need to be protecting ICE.
Good. What about bringing the National Guard home?
Our National Guard
Not
is,
sending them any place.
yeah, not sending them.
Yeah.
Like their little stunts to Texas. Is that what you're referring to? Because they weren't sent to Washington, D.C. I think the governor got a little bit of pushback about sending them to D.C., but he did send them to the Texas border for a spell, which was, he also sent ISP to the Texas border. That is all theatrics. There will be none of that theatrics. Our National Guard members are patriots. They are lovers of this country. And I don't want to put them in a position where they're humiliated at what they do. And quite frankly, every single one that I have spoken with was not pleased that they got deployed for theatrics and for some video shoot on the Mexican border. That's not what they're there for. They're there for helping us in our national disasters. When we have fires that are so bad and catastrophic that we need people to help, and they need to preserve and protect Idahoans, not ICE.
You're here. Good. Thank you.
Okay, with no more questions, I want to just say that I hope everybody, as you came in, you just sign in the sign-up sheet, because I'd like to thank you for coming. I'd like to put you on our invitation list for future things. I promise I won't ask you for money, or it's just informational only and invitational. So if you didn't sign the sign-up sheet, Margie will trip you and force you to do so on your way out. Now, we can stay, and Terri, you have some time to stay. Let's just get comfortable and get to know your neighbors and maybe have something else to eat. And we will see you at Iconic, and we will be taken care of by Three Girls Catering. I'd like to add that it's a woman-owned business as well that we're going to be participating in. Any questions? Last chance for questions.
So is Little's office open to doing a couple debates with you?
They are. In fact, he's already fundraising off of me personally, which I love. That means they actually are taking this candidacy seriously and they're scared. He sent out a mailer specifically calling me out, saying the Democratic candidate Terri Pickens, a Boise attorney, is aggressively running against him. So, and I said, damn straight.